Hey everyone, in this video I want to discuss why it's important to be skeptical of authority figures. I know here in the US we're often raised in these public education systems that kind of make people become really reliant and trusting in authority figures because your teacher will be the authority figure and you're not allowed to ever question whether or not they're wrong on things, although I had plenty of experiences where teachers actually were wrong on things, and even sometimes where they got a bit frustrated with students who were pointing out that they were wrong. And also here people are incredibly trusting of doctors, rather trusting of politicians, although that is declining a bit, thank God, because it's something that should happen over time. So authority figures, I'm not saying they're all bad, but I am saying that you should often learn to trust them. You shouldn't immediately just trust them because they're an authority figure and they're purported to know what they're talking about, because there are times where even a figure of authority doesn't know what the hell they're discussing, or they aren't fully immersed into a certain subject. A great example here would be with doctors. Rather often we're taught that doctors know all sorts of things about how our body functions and what could be going wrong. But unless they specialize in certain things, they often won't actually know what's going on, especially when it deals with specific body parts and organs, because they didn't study those things. They may have, well, I should say, they probably studied a whole bunch of things all wrapped up in one, but they didn't actually delve deeper into those things to fully understand how they work, because they didn't specialize. So there will be times where you want to trust authority figures who are more so specialized in something. I can give you an example from my own life here, which is actually the inspiration behind why I'm even making this video, because for a while now I haven't really been all that trusting of doctors, just because I understand this pharmaceutical industry and the healthcare industry here in the US, and I know that rather often doctors don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they just are used to prescribing medications and drugs to act as a quick fix for people's problems. Rather often, doctors may not even know what the heck is wrong with someone before they start prescribing them drugs. So me knowing all that, I am very, very skeptical of doctors. When I go see a doctor and I have an issue, I will usually research that issue before I even go see them, or I'll go to the doctor and get their interpretation of what could be going wrong, and then I'll research the crap out of it afterwards by myself. But I often won't immediately trust what doctors say until I've verified it, because I have had experiences where they're wrong. A great example is when I recently found out that my cholesterol is incredibly high, and this scared me, right? Because we're often taught that high cholesterol is this horrible thing. It means you're gonna die young and get heart disease and whatnot. So I delved into it because I wanted to see whether or not this was true. And after doing an immense amount of research, watching a ton of videos, reading a ton of actual research papers on cholesterol and whatnot, I realized cholesterol is far more nuanced than a lot of doctors make it out to be. A lot of doctors are taught that it's this horrible thing and people need to be prescribed statins if their cholesterol levels exceed some arbitrary threshold, like over 220 or whatever, which is dumb, because before statins, the minimum threshold for what was considered bad was much higher, because once they released statins, they wanted to sell more of them, which means they had to arbitrarily lower that threshold so more people would fall under it so they could sell that drug to more people. So there's just so much BS going on, so much misinformation, and so many drug companies trying to push their products that they end up basically making science fit their narrative. So they will fund studies, and if they don't get the result they want, they won't publish the results. So even if that means high cholesterol is actually okay, they will not publish the results from those studies showing that it's okay, because that means that they won't be able to sell more of their statins. So they will only publish the results that verify what they're looking for. So it's crazy. But anyway, after I delved into all of this, my doctor, of course, was trying to prescribe statins for me when my blood results came back and showed that I had really high cholesterol. But I've learned that it's far more nuanced. I've learned that your LDL is even made up of multiple types of LDL. You have large buoyant particles of LDL, and then you have small dense particles. Now, what actually causes the issue is the small dense particles, not the large buoyant ones. So you could have high cholesterol, high LDL, and as long as it's high large buoyant particles, you will be fine, because that does not block your arteries. It's the small dense particles that tend to mess things up for us. So I actually learned that there's another test you want to get if you have high cholesterol to then see what your LDL makeup consists of. Because if you have a lot of the small dense particles, yeah, that's an issue. You probably will want to go on statins and change your diet and whatnot. But if you have mostly those large buoyant particles, it's not that bad. It could even mean you're completely healthy and fine. So after learning that, I immediately told my doctor, hey, I want to get this test done. I want to see if I actually need to worry about my high LDL, my high cholesterol. And I could tell she immediately was not happy with me because I was basically questioning her authority. I was questioning her knowledge, right? I was like, I researched this a ton, maybe even enough to write a paper on it in like a college class. So I know what I'm talking about now. I read all the studies. And she clearly hadn't. And this is why I believe you should be very skeptical of authority figures, because you never truly know if they know what they're talking about. And I have seen times where they will BS it because they know that you view them as an authority figure and they don't want to get rid of that image that you have of them in that regard. So when you're dealing with authority figures, just try to verify what they say. I'm not saying to never trust any of them. I'm just saying verify what they tell you. Make sure it's actually truthful, because sometimes it isn't. And that's okay. I'm not saying these are all bad people. Not all doctors are bad, of course. They mean well. They don't do their homework, because after they get their degree, they often think they're done learning, and it's unfortunate, right? Like, healthcare is one of those things that is constantly evolving, constantly changing over time. It's really unfortunate that many doctors view their education as being done after they get their degree. So I would really only trust the ones that show that they actually are consistently keeping up to date on studies, they're learning new things, they don't have an immense ego that they never want to be questioned and whatnot. Yeah, those are the authority figures I would trust, the ones that actually show that they're evolving over time and not just staying stuck in the old ways of thinking that they learned in school. But that's just one example of doctors. Of course, with all authority figures, just make sure you can verify what they're saying, especially politicians. They are some of the worst when it comes to this, because they know so much manipulation tactics and whatnot to just pull the wool over the populace's eyes and just try to get them to join wars and other bad things like that. Try to push policy that's crappy, trying to do what corporations want them to do, at least here in America, where basically our government is controlled by corporations through lobbying and whatnot. So yeah, just to sum up this entire video, be skeptical of authority figures. Do not trust them blindly. Learn to build your trust for them, but I wouldn't give them your trust immediately from the beginning. These are people that I would always say you should let them earn your trust, but with other people that you're trying to make friends with and whatnot, or significant others, that sort of thing, people you're interested in dating, I would say with them, you should probably go the route of trusting them and letting them lose your trust over time, just because it'll often lead to better connections in the long run, and you'll get better at learning who you can and can't trust. With authority figures, 100% across the board, I would say don't trust them from the beginning. Let them earn your trust. I know it sounds bad, but just it's something I've learned, and yeah, it's probably the smarter route to go, to just be skeptical of authority figures until they show that they know what they're talking about and that you can actually trust that they mean well and they want what's best for you. Because some of these people, they're just in it for a paycheck, and it's unfortunate. But that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. I truly hope that you found it interesting and helpful. Let me know your experience with this in the comment section below. Let me know if you've encountered situations where authority figures showed that, hey, maybe they didn't know what they were talking about. Maybe they weren't the kind of person you wanted to blindly trust and whatnot. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Arrivederci!